So I've just attended the breakfast reception hosted by Fabian Hamilton on behalf of the National Motorcyclist Council and the National Motorcycle Dealer Association. As events go, it was reasonably predictable. A room full of people in an echo chamber talking to themselves. The idea of an event like this is obviously to get political engagement with parliamentarians. The issue, of course, is the fact that, despite the fact that all parliamentarians were invited, other than the host, Fabian Hamilton, who is an MP for Leeds and obviously had to attend, there were actually only 3 MPs that attended. This, for me, reflects the problem that we've got with getting motorcycle policy anywhere on the agenda, is that parliamentarians are just not interested in the subject. As for the event itself, it was the usual mixture of why motorcycling is great and the great role it can play in transport policy, helping to deliver sustainable transport. All the usual arguments were made in the usual way. Alfie Brierley from the MCIA mentioned about the fact that motorcycling, we need to focus on the future of motorcycling, recognising the ageing demographic of motorcyclists now, and start looking at what motorcycling needs to look like in the future and the new up-and-coming younger market and what they want in terms of their ambitions for a greener transport. For me, this kind of misses the point, though. I think what we need to do is understand that we've been making all those arguments about sustainable transport, the fact that motorcycling has its role to play as a sustainable mode, the fact that it can reduce congestion, reduce emissions, all those usual arguments. We've been making those. MAG has been making those arguments since well before it was politically correct to make them. Back in the 1980s, we were making the argument just exactly the same as we are now. So if that argument hasn't gained traction by now, is it ever going to? What struck me in the event was the need for us to actually say that motorcycling is an important part of our lives. It is something that it's a perfectly legitimate and legal mode of transport. And okay, the government may choose not to include it in its plans for sustainable transport, but it is still a legitimate and legal form of transport, and as such it needs supporting, and it needs policy support. We've seen the recent response to the motorcycles in bus lanes consultation, where the government took the opportunity, totally incongruously in my view, to say that the government has no plans to encourage the uptake of motorcycles. Now, why they needed to put this in a response about access to bus lanes is beyond me. But then again, you see that the government then in a week or two later they come out with this call for ideas on an integrated sustainable transport system. But they've already rolled down the shutters on motorcycling by saying that they don't want to encourage it. Now, if any idea that we put forward for how motorcycling can help and be part of an integrated system, is that not encouraging motorcycling? So have the government effectively preempted the whole conversation by saying, whatever you say about motorcycling, the answer is no. Ultimately, motorcycling is a legitimate mode of transport, something that we all enjoy doing. Why we enjoy doing it is there's a whole host of reasons for it, but it is our choice. It is what we want to do. It is our passion. And the government should be there to support that. Unless they're going to turn around and make it a criminal activity to ride a motorcycle, and obviously if they do, they'll get a bit of a fight on their hands. But unless they're going to do that, they have to accept that a motorcycle is a form of transport, and as a government, they are elected to make policy that protects and ensures that we have the right to make that legitimate choice. All the messaging that we're seeing coming out of government at the moment, though, is that the shutters have been rolled down, motorcycling's off the agenda, and they just don't want to know. As I say, it's a parliamentary event, free breakfast on offer for all these parliamentarians, over 600 of them. Only 3 bothered to turn up. What we need to do is make sure that every local MP knows that motorcycling is an issue that we really care about. Whether the government wants to support it as a mode of transport is almost irrelevant. Whether the government wants to promote it as a mode of transport is irrelevant. What they should be looking at is whether or not they can support it. The answer is that they should support it. The answer is that they must support it. Get onto your MP, let him know that you're a motorcyclist, ask him why he didn't attend this event, ask him why he's got no interest in motorcycling. We need to make some noise. We need to be proud about motorcycling. We need to be proud to be motorcyclists. We're not going to roll over. We're not going to be fawning. We're not going to accept that motorcycling can only be acceptable if it's part of the government's agenda. It's our agenda. It should be supported by the government. End of.